Isang paalaala. Ang susunod na kabanata ay naglalaman ng mga salita at pahayag na maaaring magdulot ng takot, pangamba at pagkabahala sa mga nakikinig, lalo na sa mas nakababatang gulang. Huwag magpatuloy kung kinakailangan.
Welcome to episode 308. Ako po si Earl, ang inyong campmaster. At ito, ang Philippine Campfire Stories. Ang Santelmo Society ay ang listener's story segment ng ating show kung saan babasahin ko ang mga kwento mula mismo sa ating mga tagapakinig. There will always be a time when things, even with the paranormal, gets to the worst of us. Mauubusan tayo ng pasensya at pangunawa na this plane is a shared space with the spirits. But what if the spirits actually harm you and your loved ones? For today's episode, nagbabalik si Gustavo, who recently shared how the doppelgangers and the spirits are imitating his mom to confuse him and his family. Naalala ko pa na sa takot at pagod ng tatay nila one evening ay nakuha nitong magstay na lang sa kotse kaysa pumasok at harapin ang doppelganger. Ngayon pakinggan natin kung ano ang nangyari sa kwento ng pamilya ni Gustavo. Hi Campmaster, this is the part 2. The activity began to worsen. It began to be more frequent and more intense. The knocking and creaking would happen during the day. We would notice people walking along the hallways and entering rooms, but just as you enter those rooms, they're empty. This happened for a while and we sort of lived with it, up until my mother started seeing them too. They say to never meet your doppelganger, and at the time, I didn't know why, but my mother did. She began to be scared of her own reflection, scared to be up too late at night, scared to be in her own home. After some time, my mother and father figure out where this spirit lived or resided. The pattern would always be the same every night. Knocking outside of the house, lights would flicker and noises would be heard around the house, and the haunting would occur. They realized that this spirit resided inside this tree in our garden. It was a small tree, no taller than 6 feet, scrawny with flowers, but it had this awful smell. After they figured this out, my mother decided to chop away at this small tree branch by branch. Unfortunately, she got sick after doing this. She was sick for a whole month and only got better when she asked me to give a peace offering, and after I did it, overnight, she got better. But the haunting stayed the same. It got worse even. It started physically interacting with us. At first it was lightly touching us in our sleep, moving objects, locking doors, and one night it even pinched my ear. I jumped up, yelling and cussing angrily at it. I said, "Get the fuck away from me. Don't ever touch me again. Get the fuck out of my home." That night I told my mother and father what happened, and that's when they decided that everyone would start sleeping in their room from now on. After that incident, I took it personally. That morning, I went out and chopped down the whole tree where it lived, all the way to the stump. I made sure nothing was left in that garden. After what it did to me, I was angry. I wasn't scared. I was tired of being scared. This was my home. And I wouldn't let some spirit kick me out. And yes, CM, I know how ridiculous this sounds, but after living in poverty in every house I've lived being haunted, it gets to a point. However, I would never do that again because I barely escaped with my life. A couple nights after I chopped down the tree, We did our usual routine before we went out to sleep. Check the locks, unplug appliances, and set up our beds on the floor next to our parents' bed. We go to bed with nothing new happening, almost peaceful actually, and I thought, is it finally over? Are we free? I fell asleep, thinking that I have won and gotten rid of the spirit. But then I opened my eyes, and I was confused. I knew I was dreaming because I knew I fell asleep moments ago, but for some reason, I'm in our garden. The dream felt so real, I was almost fooled. Then I realized I was with my mother in our garden. She was holding a pot. She walks towards me with a smile and hands me the pot. I'm still confused at this time. My instincts telling me to wake up, but I couldn't. I walk with my mother to the outside table and we start preparing this pot. I look down and see the plant we were prepping. It was a tree branch from the tree that I cut down days ago. This was when I truly felt fear. I realized what this was, but I can't move. Almost like I'm a spectator and I couldn't control my body. But then, like an angel, I hear my mother's voice. She was looking for me. I look inside our house through the window and see my mother yelling and calling me. I look up at this entity and its smile fades away, and its true face shows. Its face starts melting away and I see bright orange eyes with horrendous teeth. It starts to speak to me in a language that I do not know as its face melts away. And I scoff and cuss it out, saying, "You will never harm my family. You will never have our home. This is our land." But then it drops the tree branch and, in a last-ditch effort, entity starts scratching away at my chest and jumps on me to choke me. I felt my throat tightening, air escaping my lungs, my life fading away. Then my mom, my real mom, pulls me out and I wake up gasping for air. I open my eyes and I see that she's crying and my siblings are in the corner of the room in fear. I look down at my chest when I see that I am now shirtless with claw marks on my chest and my shirt wrapped around my neck like a noose. She told me that she was sleeping when she had a dream. An angel told her to save me, to wake me up and save me. And when she woke up, she saw my shirt in the shape of a noose tightening around my neck. But nothing was holding the shirt. It was tightening on its own. We prayed that night, and the next day they took me to church to have them pray over us. And we had a priest bless the entire house, including the garden and the sidewalk. We weren't taking any more chances. We've lived in the same house for 16 years now and have had a number of ghosts come and go. A lot of them coming for me for closure and eventually leaving. Others just looking for trouble, and the ones are a bit more complicated. I have many more stories in my journal. Looking forward to sending more, especially about the time I start experimenting with my psychic abilities. Thank you, Camp Master. Gustavo. Hi, Gustavo. Thank you for sharing the rest of your stories with us. At mukhang marami ka pang gustong ibahagi sa amin. Sobrang nakakatakot yung part na pinagtatangkaan ka na ng spirit. Medyo malala nga yun. Pero bilib ako sa tapang mo. However, next time siguro hayaan mong may mag-interfere na ibang medium or psychic para ma-handle ng maayos yung situation. Like any other conflicts, may mga resolution na katapat. At kung wala naman, syempre may respect din ng universe sa mga nanggugulo sa buhay mo. Maraming salamat sa iyo, Gustavo. Magbabalik tayo muli for another story right after this break. And we're back sa Philippine Campfire Stories. The next story is from a previous sender na si Jeanne from Abu Dhabi. May bahay sila sa Cebu na ibinilita niyang nag-undergo ng house exorcism dahil kinailangan nilang linisin ang masamang energy doon. Pakinggan niyo muna ang episode 297 para makuha niyo ang buong kwento ni Jeanne. After that, ito ang kasunod ng kwento. Hi, Camp Master Earl. Jeanne again, still listening to your podcast during my long intercity drives from Abu Dhabi to Dubai and back. I thought I'd write a follow-up and continue my story. As I said before, I had always lived in a haunted house. Growing up, I experienced unexplained noises, disembodied voices, singing, and full-body apparitions of my brother's doppleganger in fetal position. I lived in that house until 2015 when I moved to Dubai. It took me over a decade to save up for its renovation, and when I finally did, I thought the hauntings would stop. But they didn't. The contractor's wife herself witnessed a full-body apparition of a woman in white. She recommended the house exorcism, bringing us back full circle on the day of 11 February 2025. The exorcist arrived at 4 in the afternoon. He was a small, elderly man and looked completely ordinary, unassuming, even grandfatherly. Out of the 14 lay ministers set to accompany him, only 6 managed to arrive. The rest experienced various unexpected setbacks. With my dad, brother, myself, and our contractors in attendance, we were 12 in total. I eagerly welcomed them to our house and led them to the paranormal hotspot, the second floor. I expected the exorcist to immediately get down to business, maybe pull up a large silver crucifix and go around saying, "The power of Christ compels you." This wasn't Hollywood. This was real life. Instead, the first thing the exorcist did was to engage my dad in a one-on-one conversation. As the padre de familia, my dad had the authority over the house and all of its inhabitants. But my dad was too intimidated to talk freely with a priest, let alone an exorcist. So for the next 2 hours, the exorcist invited us to form a circle. He delivered a beautiful homily on the rite of exorcism, starting with the origin of evil in the book of Genesis, the temptation of Adam and Eve, the original sin, and the need for conversion and repentance. Exorcism is ultimately for human beings to return to God. Expelling demons is just a bonus, he said in Bisaya. He invited us to share our experiences, and I related the demonic retaliations from the night before. And my dad gradually opened up and showed the broken pieces of his plastic lighter. The lay ministers, with their gifts of discernment, affirmed that our house was indeed haunted by multiple entities. Some call them elementals. In Christianity, we call them fallen angels, demons. But then it was 6 in the evening. Darkness had fallen, but the exorcist showed no signs of hurry. He requested to use one of the bedrooms to hear individual confessions, while the rest of the group prayed the rosary in the living room. I went for confession first and encouraged my brother and dad to go next. I joined the group rosary and heard a loud, deep male shh coming from the old master's bedroom. I looked around, but nobody reacted or seemed to have heard it. But what we did notice was the prayer leader's voice becoming weaker and weaker. She started coughing uncontrollably to the point that she could no longer continue. So we all took turns reciting the Hail Mary. Around that time, our neighbor's dogs started barking violently, as if they were sensing someone or something dangerous. I've attached a video clip so you can hear it for yourself.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who sin against us. And not bring us into temptation.
The exorcist heard confession from all of us, no exceptions. After receiving the sacrament of reconciliation, we celebrated Holy Mass. By then, it was almost 8 in the evening. After Mass, the exorcist gave the final blessing and graciously asked for our permission to postpone dinner time to continue with the rite of exorcism. Almost immediately after we all said yes, there was a sudden violent outpouring of rain. For a few minutes, all we could hear was the sound of rain, pounding like huge, angry fists. All of us looked around in fear and wonder, except the exorcist. He barely even blinked, just raised his voice a bit and instructed us what to do up next. First, he blessed the sacramentals, olive oil, salt, water, candles, and various religious articles. Second, he anointed our forehead, neck, and the palm of our hands with the olive oil from the Holy Land. Third, he divided our group into 2. All lay ministers would go around with the house with holy water, holy oil, and exorcise salt. The rest of us would stay behind with the exorcist and recite continuous deliverance prayers. Before the lay ministers left the prayer circle, I directed them to an area at the back of the house where nothing grew. There in that secluded area, plants used to wither away. Our pet dogs weakened and died, and our pet chicks disappeared without a trace. I quickly rejoined the exorcist to recite prayers from Father Sikia's book entitled Catholic Handbook of Deliverance Prayers. He led the prayers calmly yet forcefully, and we prayed without ceasing for at least half an hour until the exorcist stopped and put down the book, looking absolutely calm and satisfied. The lay ministers joined us afterwards, telling us joyfully that they had all fled. The house exorcism was a success. They even confirmed that the secluded area I directed them indeed have invisible inhabitants. All of us gathered to share a cold dinner meal, during which time I finally got a chance to ask the exorcist all my burning questions. Some of them were, what was the scariest thing you saw during an exorcism? He said that at the time the victim's head rotated 180 degrees. Like the movie The Exorcist? He said, exactly. So it's not all Hollywood special effects. He said sometimes strange things happen, but not all the time. Before the group dispersed, the head of the lay ministers left me a strange parting gift. A plastic cup with holy oil and some cotton balls, which they used to anoint the walls and floors and doors of our house. Take this, he said. Make sure to burn them all before you sleep tonight. And I did exactly that. My dad and I stayed in the house for 3 more weeks before my vacation was up. I'm happy to report that the rest of my stay was completely uneventful. I mostly stayed in my bedroom, but visited the rental apartment units during the daytime to clean the rooms and welcome prospective tenants for viewing. Before leaving for my return flight, I made sure to leave cups of exorcise salt in each room and asked my dad to anoint the doors with holy oil until the new tenants move in. It has been 9 months since then. So far, so good, my dad says each time I ask him about the house. I stopped waking up at 3 a.m., which is a relief. Following the exorcism, I noticed that I'm no longer as sensitive as I once was. I think I may have accidentally opened my third eye when I was a teenager, but that's another story for another day. But I took the exorcist's advice to heart and even went on a pilgrimage to Our Lady of Lourdes in France last August. I haven't had a paranormal experience since then, and I'm hoping the story I just shared will be the last of them. Don't get me wrong, I still love listening to this podcast and other people's stories, but I no longer want to experience them for myself. As a practicing Roman Catholic, I've always believed in the existence of God, but now I know that the devil exists too. And I strongly urge everyone listening to my story to not mess with him. Thanks, Camp Master Earl. I hope you pick my story in your upcoming episode. Hello, Jeanne. We finally had a story that we were waiting from the last episode mo. Salamat at nawala naman ang mga bagay na nakakapagpabagabag sa bahay ninyo. Sana ay hindi na kayo gambalain pa ng mga hindi natin nakikita. At dito na po nagtatapos sa ating episode for our campers na feeling mo ay good job ang podcast sa pagsama sa iyo sa mga everyday chores at mga adventures mo at naiibsan naman ang iyong pagkainip. Baka naman feeling generous ka today. You can send love and appreciation dyan. The tips that you share, I share back with my team para sa paggawa ng content. Ayan. Daanan nyo lang po yung PayPal account natin, earlm.work@gmail.com para sa mga tao abroad. Para naman sa mga GCash subscribers, our phone number is in our episode show notes para naman doon nyo ako masendan ng GCash. Ayun. Better yet, pwede rin kayo pumunta sa Patreon, patreon.com/campfirestoriesph. Makikita nyo dun yung mga YouTube videos natin. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at TikTok. Ayan, naglalabas po kami ng mga new content doon na hindi available sa podcast. You can also stay for the ads at the end of the show kasi those ads, nakakatulong yun to keep our show running here for free. Ayan. At panghuli, kung may kwento ka na gusto mong ibahagi sa susunod na mga episodes, pwede mo yung isend sa campfirestoriesph@gmail.com. Muli, maraming salamat sa inyong pakikinig. Magkita tayong muli sa susunod na kwento. Ako si Earl at ito ang Santelmo Society segment ng Philippine Campfire Stories.